How did primitive people, who did not have a drop of water to survive, who fought with dust and sand and wandered like nomads, give birth to one of the most vibrant civilizations in history in just a few centuries? How did they come from the Sahara Desert and subdue the terrible floods of the Nile River and make themselves the first and most powerful rulers of the world, the pharaohs? But despite all this power and immense wealth, they still had one fear, and that is death. And to cheat this death, they invented the terrible science of mummification. Many think that they built the pyramids of Giza to hide the mummy. But the question is, why were no mummies found there? If it was not a burial place, then what was the real purpose of building this huge pyramid? These pyramids, made of millions of stones, still amaze scientists today. Because without iron, without wheels, and without machines, how did these people finally erect such heavy stones? And the biggest mystery is that recently, when scientists sent modern robots into the dark secret tunnels of the pyramids, what was seen behind the closed door surprised the entire scientific world. Today, we will go on an exciting journey where we will know the deep history of Egyptian civilization that you may have never seen before. And that is why we are now returning to the Sahara Desert of 11,000 BC. Because history began from here. About 8,000 years ago, people learned to sow seeds. In some parts of the world, people started living in small settlements. But in a very large part of our world, nature was playing a terrible game. The vast area of North Africa that we today call the Sahara, the driest and most life-threatening desert in the world, was not always like this. Scientists call this period the African Humid Period. From about 11,000 BC to 5,000 BC, that is, for a whole 6,000 years, the Sahara was a completely different world. There were miles and miles of green savanna forests. There were big chariots. There were many tribes of nomadic hunters living there. They lived in harmony with nature. We have not found evidence of this from a place called Playa. Today, it is a dry desert in the south of Egypt. In 7000 BC, there was a chariot here, and on its banks people built a huge enclosure of stones, which tracked the movement of the sun. This is the oldest stone calendar in the world. That means the people of the Sahara were advanced. But then the winds changed their course. According to scientists, around 5500 BC, there was a very small change in the axis of the Earth, just a few degrees of tilt. But that small change removed the monsoon or monsoon winds of the whole of Africa forever. The green world began to burn. The centuries-old chariots turned to mud. The trees were replaced by hot sand. Now the nomadic tribes had no choice. From the deserts of the west and the barren areas of the east, these different tribes, full of thirst and fear, were rushing in the same direction with their children and surviving animals. They walked for miles on the hot sand in search of a place where only a drop of water could be found. This deadly curse buried the weak people in the sand. But those who managed to overcome this terrible journey finally saw a miraculous sight on the horizon that changed the entire history of humanity. A vast blue and calm line was flowing from north to south, cutting through the very center of the hot golden desert, a river that had no end. That was the Nile. When those tired nomadic hunters touched that cold water, they felt that their journey was over. They thought they had only got water to drink. They did not know that their future generations would build the huge pyramids on the banks of the river where they had relieved their fatigue today. Seeing this, even after thousands of years, people's brains are stunned. But a very big question remained. Those uncles would just accept and fill their stomachs until yesterday. Those who did not have any great technology or any resources. How did those people later become a civilization that built sky-high pyramids? When the Nile River would overflow every year and drown everything, How did these people harness this uncontrolled water and start farming? The thirst of those people was quenched. They felt that now they would just have to accept and live comfortably on the banks of this river, but they did not know one thing. This river was not an ordinary river. Every year, in a certain season, this calm river suddenly took on a terrifying form. Its water overflowed, and in a blink of an eye, the land on the banks would be submerged in a terrible flood. At first, the hunters thought it was a natural disaster. They fled to the high mountains in fear for their lives. But when the water receded a few weeks later, it left behind not only devastation, but a miracle that forced the nomadic people to stop on this land. After the flood waters receded,